guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Yeah, it was a grind, right? I mean, we talked about it was going to be a grinding game, and to kind of find where we're at, and we thought we played good. We played good in spurts, but it was a grind, and the positive thing is that we did grind, continually kept grinding everybody, and we're fortunate to get it done.
Is that 4 or 5 grinds from Dean in that 30-second?
Grind. And you know what's funny is it's a perfect word for that game because it felt like at the end of it, a grind. An ugly win, but when you've lost, 6 or 7 going into that game, 4 consecutive games that you've dropped, you will take that win. It was ugly. It was a game that the Flyers basically completely blew, but who cares? Because Dino's right. The Wild grounded it out. Hey, welcome in Feedback Friday. Mackie, one more day off. He'll be back on Monday, but Feedback Friday never rests. Judd and Declan with you. And Declan, I believe you have been charged with playing the role of Phil this week, and you have come up with the feedback that we're going to respond to.
Yeah, we've been teasing this all week that we're basically turning Judd's Hockey Show into Mackie and Judd. And if Mackie's away, then Judd's Hockey Show will play.
Oh, I like
it's
that.
Kind of my thought process there.
I like what you're doing.
And thankfully, the Wild are coming off a win for once. So there was a positive spin for the Wild, who beat the Flyers on Thursday night. You can find Judd and I's post-game reaction to that also on this YouTube channel. But yeah, we're going to comb through some Minnesota Wild feedback here after that win and some reckless speculation from our listeners. So let's start here. Taylor says, because we've been talking a lot about Marc-Adnre Fleury and been talking about the goaltending issue, but Taylor actually has a new name to add. Reckless speculation.
Way to go, Taylor.
He says, I'd maybe see if we can get Brayden Holtby instead of Marc-Adnre Fleury. Flower makes me a little nervous in the playoffs. So Brayden Holtby, Judd, now with the Dallas Stars, a 9-10-1 record, decent numbers, GA of 2.7, save percentage 912. Not the goalie he was when he was winning Vezinas and Jennings trophies with Washington 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
But on his third team in the last 3 years, the Stars have been middling, kind of meh. They've been hot, they've been cold. But he adds Brayden Holtby to the reckless speculation list. Judd Zulgad, your immediate reaction to Brayden Holtby being a potential target for the Wild at the trade deadline?
Well, first of all, I love the thought. I love taking our reckless speculation and upping it more, which is great. So I know that the new age thinking is, yeah, it's a trade in your division, but come on, that used to be a big deal. It's not now. And you know what? There's times I completely agree. Like the Blackhawks stink. So if Marc-Andre Fleury gets traded to the Wild or Avs, that's not going to bite the Blackhawks in the proverbial butt. That being said, the Dallas Stars right now are making a run. And look at the playoff picture. It's awesome. It is jumbled. The fact is, in Dallas, Jake Ottinger, who I believe is from Lakeville, has separated himself, and he is clearly now their top goaltending option. Brayden Holtby very well might be moved. But Declan, are you going to move Brayden Holtby to a team that you are trying to catch, and not just trying to catch that's like 10 points up, trying to catch that you're close to? That's one where I don't think I would have any interest in potentially strengthening an opponent that I very much am expecting to, if things go well, fight for a playoff position. In this case, I don't think I would do that. That does not mean I wouldn't trade Holtby. I would probably prefer to trade him, if I'm going to, though, to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Holtby is definitely the backup now and is the second option there for Dallas. But I've always been against the notion of trading in your division, or against the notion of you shouldn't be trading in your division. If Dallas can get the right offer, you should take that chance. I get what you're saying. They're close to them now in the Central Division. It's becoming more of a logjam between fourth, third, and second place in the Central. But I would explore it. I wouldn't rule it out.
Make a phone call, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I think it just proves that a lot of other Wild fans know that Talbot and Kaapo might not be the long-term answer. And some people are obviously against Marc-Andre Fleury, and obviously Chicago's in your division too, but Chicago's terrible.
Yeah, they're lost.
Chicago's not
and that's
going
a
anywhere.
rental. Yeah, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
The Blackhawks are basically dead.
I can get down with it. I don't think it's impossible. Yeah, I think it's a neat one.
I just don't think if I'm the Dallas Stars, that I'm going to be trading a guy like Holtby to a division rival that I very much am fighting. And I also think that if there was going to be, and there was about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, that Joe Pavelski might be moved, I'm not going to trade Joe Pavelski now. He's been really solid for them. In fact, I might sign him to a contract extension. So keep the ideas coming, though, because there's no way, if you're a Wild fan and you watched that grinded out game against the Flyers on Thursday night, there is no way that you feel comfortable right now with Cam Talbot in goal. Yeah, I do agree with that completely. That did nothing to inspire my confidence.
Dallas is really volatile. They've gone through wounds. They've gotten hot. And that room in general, I don't know. I don't trust them to make a run.
But they're hot again now,
I really
right?
don't. They're playing well. They're 7-2 in their last 7-2-1 in their last 10. But I don't know if I trust them.
There's no question they should make the playoffs.
They should, but
they should make the playoffs. So I don't know how much they're going to bail though on that thought. They definitely aren't part of that bottom of the conference subsets where just trade guys. Like, don't hang on to guys. That's stupid. They have a decision to make.
AAA 33 says, if we can't make a trade for a goaltender, I'd rather have a 1% chance with Kaapo versus a 0% chance with Cam Talbot. Judd, if you had to start the playoffs today, is Kaapo Kahkonen your number one goaltender?
Oh, God, I think he has to be. And I don't love that, but if you don't make a move, I mean, I'll just go back to, and it's not like Kaapo has been standing on his head of late, but when's the last time you saw Talbot play a game and felt really good about it?
Yeah, not this year.
Like Kaapo started in Toronto. Now he started in Calgary on Saturday, but that was a game where the Wild was just terrible, and I don't think Kaapo got support. But if you go back to that Toronto game, you know what? I thought Kaapo played pretty well. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw Talbot start and thought, he's on. So yeah, I guess I would. I will say this though, to go back to your point at the top of the show, I just don't have faith right now in the goaltending. And I don't know that if you really have your eye on trying to win at least a series, that I would feel good if the puck dropped for game one and the current goaltending tandem duo, one of those two is starting.
Yeah, and the Wild have done this before, previous regimes. You know, they got Brizgalov at the deadline. Obviously, Devin Dubnyk was the infamous one. You know, they've tried this before where they've gotten goaltending and it's fixed things. It's put a Band-Aid on things. I'm in the market of goaltending can save you more than a center can save you. And that doesn't discredit what a Claude Giroux could bring, or we obviously recklessly speculate about Thomas Hertl on Thursday as well. Those centers are damn good and they can make impacts, but goalies, in my opinion, carry more weight and water in determining a win or a loss than a center does. So I'm curious what they do, man. It's going to be very, very intriguing.
And I do think that goaltenders also can submarine you so quickly. Because like if you are in a playoff series, first period, game one, you give up a couple of softies, right? Your whole team's down. Like your whole team's like, oh my God, no. If you lose a face-off or something, okay, that's not great, but hey, let's keep going. But if Cam Talbot starts game one and they're playing, I don't know, take your pick, the Blues or something, and he gives up a couple softies, now if you're on that bench, you're questioning the whole thing. So
no kidding.
I tend to agree with your point about like, if you can solidify, what do you solidify?
Tyler says, if Cam Talbot doesn't get traded by the NHL trade deadline, which by the way, I think is a very small % chance, do you guys think he might be traded in the offseason?
Ooh, yeah, I think so. He's got a year left on his contract after this year, correct?
Yes.
I think the Wild might go in a different direction.
I think this is the last season of Cam Talbot.
I wouldn't be surprised. And they are doing their best right now. And I don't know if this is like to get a preview of if they can count on him for the playoffs this spring, Dex. But,
Right.
you know, from what Dean is saying and from what Billy has said, and from the fact that Cam was brought back after what was certainly not a great performance against Calgary on Tuesday, it's very clear they are trying to get his confidence back. But that's also a bad sign. And so, yeah, I think that there's a very good chance that Cam is moved. And then my question goes back to, where's the progress at, and where is Wallstead at? Because I think he's going to be here sooner than people think. That does not mean that I think he's going to be here on opening night 2022-23. So
Gotcha. Another one here from Hugh. He says, defense and a true center will fix the Wild's problems for sure. You could have traded for Jack Eichel, but he didn't find a way to boost the lineup, and this could be another first-round exit. So Hugh kind of looking back at that drawing board of, number one, Jack Eichel being a potential missed target, but also a defenseman and a true center actually being the fix for the Wild potentially this by the trade deadline, which is less than now 3 weeks away.
Sure. This is a tough one. This is a tough one to me because, Declan, look what Buffalo got. Alex Tuch's been phenomenal.
I love Tuch.
So the package, if we're talking Eichel, and heck, we talked about this before he got traded when the Wild was at one point prominently being mentioned as a landing spot for Jack Eichel. The package that goes back to Buffalo. I mean, come on. That's going to be, well, let's go through it. Boldy, right? For sure. In place of Tuch.
Fiala, maybe.
Fiala, because of salary, right?
Yep.
Giraffe picks. Do they ask for another prospect? Do they ask for another player? Like, the thought of Eichel being plugged in remains a very attractive thought. Don't get me wrong. But I also, Dex, don't have an interest in mortgaging everything for that.
Yeah.
And so the trade would be, on one hand, it's very easy to criticize and say Bill Guerin should have done more. And you know what? You might be right. But the comeback is, okay, what's the package? And I guess at some point in time, you need to make a trade like that to have the guts to do it. But there's a very fine line between being gutless and being foolish, right? And so if the package was as extensive as we think, that might have just been downright foolish too.
I agree.
I would love to know what Buffalo asked for if they indeed did.
Yeah, I think you can put Fiala and either Rossi or Boldy as the two main cogs there in the trade. Those are
so
the
not
two,
both, but you think one of those two prospects?
One of Boldy or Rossi, but certainly not both. Fiala would be the game ready piece like Tuch. And then it's probably a first pick with a, future third or whatever, the equivalent of the trade was with Vegas and Buffalo from the start. I think that's probably what you're looking at if the Wild were able to make that trade. So would have been a lot. I'm with you. I think it was still the right move for the Wild not to part that. Yeah, I don't think the Wild made a mistake not giving up all that for Jack Eichel. And the fact Buffalo waited it out as long as they did and still got the, I guess, haul that they did was impressive because I thought the Sabres, as I like to call them the Sabres, I thought Buffalo was going to be forced to move them. Yeah, I like to call them the RES, the Sabres. I'm actually impressed Buffalo got what they were able to get for him, and good for them, because I thought they were just going to be forced to move him, and they still ended up getting a decent return there. We'll see if Buffalo eventually gets back to it.
And keep in mind, too, the Golden Knights, not assured of a playoff spot.
No?
So it's not like the Golden Knights are now just taking off, and, oh, my God, they're going to win the Cup. So this is... that's a tough one because it's a fun trade. It certainly would have provided the type of center that this team desperately needs. But I do think that at some point, too, it becomes a foolish cost, and you probably wisely say it's not worth that.
Reckless speculation. Trade talk. Juicy rumors.
Our guy Logan, who was on Write That Down with us, sent in a little comment on the Score North app and said, with the Wild being smaller on the blue line, what do you think of maybe making a trade for Ben Chariot or Hampus Lindholm? They are both pending UFAs. Chariot would be cheaper to acquire.
Sherratt, I think.
Sherratt. Yeah, my bad. Sherratt. Ben Sherratt or Hampus Hampus Lindholm. They're both pending UFAs. Sherratt would be cheaper to acquire. I'm interested in hearing your thought of those two on the defensive blue line.
Okay, that's an awesome bit of reckless speculation that I respect, comes along with names, so I like that. Here's my thing, and I think we talked about this on our last or two Judd's hockey shows ago, Dex. My issue with this one is I'm trying to, in my mind, by the day, it changes at times, Declan, prioritize targets, right? And I'm not just saying players, I'm saying positions. A big defenseman right now, in my mind, would be great. And we've disagreed. Like, you're not as high, or you weren't as high previously as I was. But I made it very clear from the outset, and it remains this way for me, that has been number 3 on my list. So, like, I have fluctuated between center and goaltender. Right now, I'm more goaltender 1, center 2, defenseman 3. So it's a great suggestion. I agree that is a place of need, but my problem is you only are going at this deadline, especially, to give up so much, right? Like, you're not going to be like, you take Rossi and you take Boldy, or you take this guy and you take my first round pick. I think if the Wild's going to make an impact trade, which I could see them doing, I think it's going to be one impact trade. So you're not going to be like, all right, we're going to go get the Flower from Chicago, and then we're going to get Giroux from Philadelphia, and then Ben Sherratt. So the need for a big defenseman, to me, especially when I watch the Flames, who just kick people's asses, and I love it, is apparent. I don't think it's moving from the third thing on Bill Guerin's list. It certainly has not moved on Judd Zolgad's list, Declan.
Sherratt in Montreal, and it's kind of hard to gauge because Montreal is an absolute dump, but Sherratt has been miserable analytically this season. Just terrible.
So is Petrie, who is also going to possibly be moved and is actually a good player. I think what we talked about with Flower has to be, when it comes to the advanced metrics of this sport, Dex, I think you have to keep in mind what you just said, which is if you're with a terrible team, it skews things. Because, like, you don't just become a horse bleep player. Correct. Unless you're old and you just are starting to descend badly. But so it's so hard to tell from the stats sometimes. Okay, Correct. Has this guy lost his fastball, or is he just on what is unfortunately, in the case of the Canadians, a loser of a franchise? Exactly. And then this is where you have to blend both of them together. You can't be skewing your perception on one or the other. It's when you can blend both of them together. And with Montreal being in the dump and Sherratt maybe having a negative perception, that means, well, the cost might be easy to get him. It might be easier to acquire him. Right. But in general, Montreal's horrible. They're horrible. Question for you, Dex. When you look at those stats of players who have been good on bad teams, and across the board, they're mostly bad, is there a stat or two that you look to for potential clarity? Like, is there a metric that you have identified, or two, where it's like, if this number is bad, it's a problem. If it's not bad, but the rest of them are, I actually can see that he's suffering from being on a bad team? If it's a forward, I try to look at shots and shooting percentage as something that I like to see, because I think if he's putting up a lot of shots and maybe his shooting percentage is low, that tells me that, well, maybe he is just being a little bit unlucky here. Also, his line mates, who is he with? Who is he playing with? Are his teammates dragging him down? Because that's also something I think to keep in mind. With defensemen, I think it's tough. Because look, like John Merrill and Dmitry Kulikov, when they were signed, we all thought, oh, okay, nice depth guys, but probably aren't going to make an impact. I know Merrill's kind of fighting it a little bit right now, but then you put him with the Wild, and in general, he's been better because he's in a better situation. So there isn't one stat I try to look at that I look for. Goals for times is X goals for is a good one to look at. With type of offense and defense you're type of goals you're scoring and allowing. It's all relative. I think it's all relative on how you want to look at it. But I think the problem with hockey analytics, especially the hockey analytics community, unfortunately, is now it's become 100% tunnel vision of analytics, and that's how it gets to be. Yeah, but I mean, we see that in football too now. Like this is what it says. It's like, okay, but let's all sit down and watch the game together. How about that? And then we can examine it. I mean, your statement from way back when, which is you have to meld them, is 1,000% correct. And then they do help you. But yeah, it's just, in sports, if you're on a bad team, you are often it's going to be reflected as if you have descended.
And I think the problem with analytics in hockey is there's other people are coming up with their own analytics. They're trying to put their own spin on a lot of things.
Oh, I don't know about this culture.
It's just, then it becomes even more difficult.
Like, what are they coming up with?
There isn't the player card ratings or offensive ratings or, Evolving Hockey does a phenomenal job. I love them the most. They're probably the smartest ones out there. But then other people are still coming up with their own metrics and their own system. And now we have too many jumbled formulas going on, and it just becomes chaos. So I like analytics too. I dig them, but there's too many. There's too many. So
and you also have to watch the games. Like that's
watch the damn game.
Just watch the game, and then use the statistics and the metrics and all of that good stuff to sort of enhance what you're seeing.
Exactly. West B 102 says,
all right,
would love a trade for Giroux and Fleury and then call up Marco Rossi.
Reckless speculation.
I love the idea, West B, but I think only of those three names you just listed, Giroux, Fleury, and Rossi, only one of them would be with the Wild in the postseason. But bravo, sir.
I don't care. West B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, West B. I love where your head is at. Like, who cares if it's completely wrong or it might be right? All right, so I don't think you're going to trade for the Flower and Giroux, although I certainly, depending on the price, obviously would not object. I don't think Marco Rossi is ready yet. And here's the real problem. So he might come up, and if he's given an extended playing time in the regular season, he might be okay. Here's my concern. So the Wild determined last year that Matthew Boldy was not prepared to play in the playoffs, which we sight unseen disagreed with. Boldy then came up this season after being hurt and being out and played extremely, extremely well. But against Calgary, Dex, which plays a playoff style, right? Boldy struggled. He flat out struggled.
Yep.
And so I am not saying that Boldy shouldn't continue to play. And I believe that those struggles ultimately will improve him. But there's a difference between fighting through it and the struggles improving you and being thrown to the wolves, right? So I guess this is a long-winded way of saying, how do you think Marco Rossi would fare if he played in the playoffs this season? Because I think it might be extremely difficult with his size, with the time and space that gets taken up. If you had concerns about Boldy in the playoffs last spring, I think you have more concerns about trying to play Rossi in the playoffs this spring.
I think the only way Rossi comes up here is if it's by injury and the Wild are forced to call him up. That's the only really way I see this going. We wanted Boldy to play last year in Vegas, but we kind of got a little bit of egg on our face that over these last few games, I know he scored a goal against the Flyers on Thursday night, that he was exposed a little bit. And could you imagine if that was his first taste and if he had played in Vegas in the playoffs?
Yeah, and to be clear about that, Boldy will kick the Flyers' ass. Like, he's fine against them. It's Calgary that concerns you. Like, Calgary gave you, in back-to-back games, a blueprint of what you're going to see in a real playoff series.
Mm-hmm.
The Flyers, I'd play them all day long. The fact that they allowed the Wild to win that game is a gift to the Wild. But yeah, so I just think that the Rossi thing I think he's going to be very good. I think that at some point in time, he's going to absolutely pop, but I also can see the Wild's concern. And if they had concerns last season about Matthew Boldy, there's no question those concerns are probably far greater about Rossi's ability to function in the postseason.
Last one here from Mike. He says, write this down. The Wild will win their next 4 straight games. The next four games for the Wild. Buffalo on Friday evening as we're recording this.
Yep.
Dallas comes to town on Sunday.
Yep.
Then the Wild are home against New York Rangers on Tuesday.
Ooh.
And then they get They get Detroit in Detroit on Thursday. So Sabres, Stars, Rangers, Red Wings. Can the Wild run the table there, Judd?
No, write this down. They will not. They will not do that. First of all, they're playing a back-to-back tonight against Buffalo. If they play the way that they did last night, they'll lose. Buffalo just kicked Toronto's butt. Buffalo's not good. Buffalo is better than Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a lifeless collection of people who are. It is so. I think ironic fits here, Declan. It is so ironic that Chuck Fletcher and Mike Yeo basically have taken on a team that has taken on Wild 2.0 status, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they've got some players. Claude Giroux's a really good player. And they've got players. Who's the defenseman? Provorov, I believe he wears 9. He's a good player. Like, they've got some guys, but my God, are they lifeless? The building is empty. The Wild has to play, I think, a superior game to what they did last night to beat the Sabres. Okay, so they should win that game. Stars are weird. I agree with Declan. The Rangers, though, Rangers come out and play hard. I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, do not be surprised if Igor Shesterkin, the phenomenally talented goaltender for the Blue Shirts, wins the Hart Trophy. He has been unbelievable.
You think he could win the Hart?
He is, I don't think, people who know a lot more than me, who I happen to tune into on a satellite station quite a bit, are essentially saying he is very much in like the top 3 mix now to win the MVP of the entire league.
I mean, I think he's
been that good.
He's been a favorite to win the Vezina. I wouldn't be surprised there. But
they're talking about the Hart. They're talking about the Hart. They're talking about a group that has a few contenders. But yeah, Shesterkin has been that good. So Garrett saying that they're going to go through the Rangers at the X, I don't know about that. And keep in mind too, the Wild is not playing as well at home as they previously were.
No kidding.
I'm not trying to put cold water on this topic as I take a swig of my water, but I am trying to just caution you. Let's all see how this plays out and realize the Wild was lucky to beat the Flyers last night.
Yeah, no, they were. Buffalo's not great. I wouldn't recommend you playing the way you did again against Philly, the way you did against Philly and Buffalo. You might still be able to squeeze out that win because Buffalo's bad. But yes, they just need a stronger performance tonight. They need a stronger performance on Friday evening.
And you know what they need?
Those Sabres
Tonight? Some really good saves.
Mm-hmm. They need to get some goaltending.
I mean, I don't care who starts. Stand on your bleeping head.
Yeah.
Give me confidence again. My confidence is waning. I hate when sports dad's confidence wanes. Give me confidence again.
Judd, before we get some Vikings feedback here,
yes.
we have a new sponsor on Mackie and Judd.
And yes, we would like to welcome aboard the people at Valley Park Medical Clinic, which is dedicated to providing breakthrough ED remedies to men in the greater Minneapolis area. We are the only clinic in the state to use True Pulse protocol, one of the most effective solutions for ED available. Our approach is that you will meet with a medical provider who will review your history, examine you, and supervise your treatments. Treatments are, this is all good news, surgery-free, drug-free, and non-invasive. The Valley Park Medical Clinic team is highly trained, will work with you in a discreet manner, and will make you feel at home so you can ask any questions in a professional and confidential environment. The website is valleyparkmedicalclinic.com. That's valleyparkmedicalclinic.com. Welcome aboard to the Mackie and Judd show, which today is Declan and Judd.